The World Cup wasn't ready for what Spain just became.
Touch now, Oyarzabal, back post, there it is! There he is!
A week ago, people were asking whether Spain had been overrated. After 90 minutes against Cabo Verde, the hype was gone.
Cabo Verde, in their first ever World Cup game, have just drawn 0-0 to one of the big favorites to win this entire thing, the reigning European champions.
The doubts were everywhere. The team that arrived as one of the favorites suddenly looked predictable, cautious, and strangely ordinary. Then, Saudi Arabia stepped onto the field, and within 13 minutes, the entire conversation changed.
Game week 1, they have now beaten Saudi Arabia 4-0 in a very much convincing and a much better.
3 goals, complete panic, a game that was effectively finished before most fans had settled into their seats. But this isn't a story about Spain winning 4-0. It's a story about what happened between those goals. Because for the first time at this World Cup, Spain looked exactly like the monster everyone feared before the tournament started. And if what we saw in Atlanta is the real Spain,
Cucurella, Dani Olmo, Oyarzabal!
the rest of the world should be very worried. To understand what happened against Saudi Arabia, you have to go back to that Cabo Verde match, because the pain of that result is what made this performance so deliberate. Spain arrived at this World Cup as European champions. They had Rodri, arguably the best midfielder on the planet. They had Pedri, one of the most technically gifted players of his generation. They had a striker in Oyarzabal, who'd been one of the most consistent finishers in European football over the past year. And they had Lamine Yamal, an 18-year-old who was already being spoken about in the same breath as the greatest players in the world. On paper, this squad had no weaknesses. In reality, against Cabo Verde, they had one enormous one. Their attack was passive. The possession was there. It was always there. Spain kept the ball for long stretches without difficulty, but it went nowhere.
Spain just couldn't play through them, they couldn't play around them, they were resorting to crosses to Oyarzabal, and the defenders were so comfortable.
Side to side, across the back line, out to the fullbacks, back to midfield, sideways again.
That Spain were going to carry all of the possession. What was really concerning for me from the Spanish perspective is how deliberate and slow the possession was, and it's so slow, and it's moving sideways and back and sideways again.
Spanish fans watching that match weren't just frustrated, they were bored.
But that side-to-side nonsense was driving me crazy. I have nothing to do with Spain, and that was driving me crazy. And I have to imagine that if you're a Spanish fan and you see this to this to this to this and it's going nowhere.
And when your own supporters are bored watching you dominate possession, something has gone badly wrong. The number that tells the whole story is this: Oyarzabal, the starting striker, didn't touch the ball for the first 30 minutes. 30 minutes!
How can you be the world champions and when you go to the first hydration break after, 22 and a half minutes, 23 minutes, you have all this possession, your centre forward, Oyarzabal, has not touched the ball?
Spain's centre-forward, invisible in his own match, not because Cabo Verde had marked him brilliantly, but because the ball never got anywhere near him.
And in order for him to take advantage of his positioning, there has to be service. And if you think back to the game against Cabo Verde, there wasn't a whole lot of service. So there is a very obvious explanation as to why he's not touching the ball.
The service simply wasn't there. Spain's XG from that game was over 2, which means the chances existed in theory, but the football felt passive.
If we're talking about teams of this tournament, would be, say, Portugal coming off that game, their game, and having like 0.5 XG for the game. For Spain, it was 2 point something, so they should have scored, but they didn't.
It felt like a team waiting for something to happen, rather than making something happen. For a squad built to compete for a World Cup, that wasn't good enough. The question that followed Spain into Atlanta was blunt. Was Cabo Verde a bad night? Or was it the ceiling? De La Fuente had a week to answer that. What he changed wasn't the squad, it was the mentality. The first adjustment was tactical. Dani Olmo replaced Fabian Ruiz in the starting lineup, and that single change altered the entire personality of Spain's midfield.
I think the presence of Dani Olmo from the start today makes a difference, because he's a guy that is more forward thinking than Fabian Ruiz. And so I think there are decisions that were made by Luis de la Fuente that were necessary. The Spanish team reacted the manner in which they should.
Ruiz is a gifted footballer, but his instinct is to circulate. Olmo's instinct is to penetrate. He plays between lines. He looks forward. He presses the ball high. Dropping him into that number 10 role pushed Spain's entire structure further up the pitch and gave the team a different kind of engine in the middle. The second adjustment was bigger. Lamine Yamal started from the first whistle. Coming into this tournament, there had been real concern about Yamal's hamstring. He'd picked up a muscular injury before the squad assembled. And in the Cabo Verde game, Spain managed him carefully. 15 minutes off the bench, limited exposure, nothing to stress the muscle, a sensible precaution, but also a significant limitation. Because without Yamal operating at full speed, Spain's entire right side loses its threat.
So that's the worry for the manager. Lots of passing, they've still got all the technical ability, but they haven't got people that can go past defenders and change the course of a game without Yamal.
Against Saudi Arabia, within 30 seconds of kickoff, you had your answer. Yamal got the ball on the right, dropped his shoulder, and left a defender frozen with that stop-go acceleration he does, the kind that only works when the hamstring is fully firing. The crowd responded immediately. Anyone who'd been worried about his fitness stopped worrying right there. The first goal came in the 10th minute, and the run Yamal made to score it told you everything you needed to know. Oyarzabal collected the ball in the channel after a vertical pass split Saudi Arabia's midfield. Head up, one look, and he rolled it to the back post. Yamal had already started the run. He arrived at full sprint, committed completely, and finished from close range.
And the first goal came on the left-hand side. Good play on the left-hand side. Oyarzabal with a great cross, low cross. He saw Lamine Yamal. Lamine Yamal, very smart, intelligent run. Rather than waiting for the cutback, rather than waiting at the back post, he made the right run. Good run by Lamine Yamal. Good finish to make it 1-0.
The goal was straightforward. The run wasn't. To get to that position in that manner, you need a hamstring that trusts you completely. His did. What Yamal does to a defensive structure goes beyond his own direct contribution. Saudi Arabia found this out almost immediately.
The way he started the game was like a train. He was very much like, I am not letting the Saudis stand in my way.
Every time he received the ball, multiple defenders moved toward him. 3 at times, 4 in certain moments. That's not just one defender losing a duel, that's an entire defensive shape collapsing in on one point of the pitch. And when that happens, space opens everywhere else. Oyarzabal found it, Olmo found it, the fullbacks found it. Suddenly, Spain looked like a completely different team because they were playing on a pitch that felt twice as large. Oyarzabal finished that first half with 2 goals and an assist. The man who'd been the butt of jokes 7 days earlier ended the half with more goal contributions than most strikers manage in a full game. His numbers for Spain deserve saying clearly: 27 goals in 55 appearances, 14 goals and 7 assists across his last 13 games for the national side. He's not a name that trends globally.
I think he has, and there has been interest at times. I think he's very happy living in San Sebastian. He's got a pretty great life away from the spotlight because he's not a guy that looks for the spotlight. Yeah, he's happy there eating pinchos, having a great time.
He plays for Real Sociedad, not Madrid or Barcelona, but his record quietly puts him among the most effective international strikers in world football right now. Underneath all of it, Rodri was the reason the whole machine functioned. 8 passes into the final third, 8 defensive recoveries, complete control of the game's tempo from start to finish. When Saudi Arabia won the ball and tried to build, Rodri was there before they'd taken a second touch. He didn't just neutralize their attacks, he made sure they never properly started. The stat that captures the whole afternoon: Saudi Arabia's first shot on target came in the 80th minute from distance on a weak foot by a player who'd clearly given up trying to hurt Spain and just wanted to make contact with the ball.
Your first shot on target was the 80th minute. If you think you were going to lose, no problem. At least make it respectable. At least tell Spain we're still going to come and attack.
That's not a defensive performance, that's a statement. Multiple analysts covering the match said the same thing independently. Spain at 4-0 felt like a floor, not a ceiling. Brazil beat Haiti 3-0 earlier in the tournament, and the room felt like that was the best they had. Spain at 4-0 felt like they'd taken their foot off the gas at 3-0, like they could have made it 8 if De La Fuente hadn't looked at the clock, decided the job was done, and pulled both Yamal and and Oyarzabal at half-time to save their legs for Uruguay. That 4-0 scoreline matters, but context matters more. Saudi Arabia aren't a serious test.
But I can't emphasise enough for a World Cup game. As good as Spain were, there's always two sides to a story, and I cannot emphasise enough how bad Saudi Arabia were.
Spain's defence faced almost nothing across 90 minutes. Unai Simon played more passes with his feet than saves with his hands. The centre-back pairing of Cubarsi and Laporte hasn't been asked a single difficult question yet. None of that gets answered until Uruguay, where Bielsa's side will press in waves, step aggressively, and force Spain into the kind of physical confrontation that simply didn't exist in either of their first two games. France's second half against Senegal was a different level of football. Those who watched it saw a team operating with a brutal, coherent intensity that Spain haven't fully showed yet. Whether Spain can match that against elite opposition remains genuinely open. Anyone saying otherwise right now is getting carried away. But here's what this performance does confirm. Spain are going through the gears. They weren't at full speed. Yamal played 45 minutes. Oyarzabal played 45. The manager saw enough, protected both players, and still finished with a 4-goal margin. That's a team that understands where it is in the tournament and is building deliberately towards something bigger. Yamal is only 18. What he did in this match placed him alongside Pele as the only players 18 or younger to open the scoring in a World Cup game since 1958.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was very beautiful. The stats are amazing. Lamine Yamal is the second youngest player to score in a FIFA World Cup match. Obviously, 17-year-old Pele for Brazil against Wales in 1958. Greatness respects greatness.
He's not at his ceiling. He's still recovering fitness, still adding sharpness, still finding rhythm. The comparison that keeps circulating in broadcast studios isn't accidental. Spain rely on Yamal the way Argentina relied on Messi, not primarily as a goal threat, but as the player who makes everyone else function at a higher level. Pull him out of this team and watch what collapses. The warning has been sent. The version of Spain that the football world feared before this tournament arrived in Atlanta and only played half of football. 32 games unbeaten, a clean sheet. Their two most important attacking players rested for the second half with the job already done. The group decider against Uruguay is coming, and it will be the first real test of whether this team can perform under genuine pressure. But the doubts from Cabo Verde are gone. What replaced them is a far less comfortable feeling if you're not wearing red. Spain didn't just beat Saudi Arabia, they answered every question about them in the worst possible way for everyone else at this tournament. Yamal is fit, Oyarzabal is clinical, Rodri is in control. Subscribe for full coverage as Spain's run continues.